Hello. Good morning. Let's see if we can get this thing to work.
There we go.
Get up.
Gracism. Oh, we started off with some spelling.
Bring them on.
Gracism. Gracism.
Maybe. Try it out. Maybe. I tried that on. There he is.
Hey,
What's up, my friend?
not much. How you doing
I'm
today?
good. How about yourself?
Doing good.
Oh,
I know that
I,
you normally do your thing outside, so I said I'm gonna come outside and join you.
well, it looks like you got quite a bit of sun on you, though, my friend. I'm kind of trying to be in the
Yeah,
shade.
I've tried, but I tried to find a decent shot, but sometimes the shade makes everything look darker, and I just look like a blue T-shirt. So
That is awesome. Man, it is good to have you on here. I'm going to go ahead and just let you introduce yourself and feel
okay,
free to share a minute about who you are, what you stand for, what you're about. I'm not sure if all the people that pay attention to what I have to say know who you are, but I know who you are. I've been following you and listening for a while. And just so that the people that typically watch me, I feel that Kyle is a lover of humanity, and that's why I got him on here, because he genuinely cares for people. So go ahead and introduce yourself, my friend.
well, I'm Kyle. Uh, I'm a, I guess you would say former pastor. I pastored for a good portion of my life and got into ministry at a very early age. I didn't know what I know now, like most of us, and what I didn't know then was the value and importance of love. I thought once you got saved and got in church, that was really all it's about. But I've been radically transformed by love, the concept of love, the truth of love that comes from within, not from some outside understanding, but actually a transformation from within.
Yeah,
So that's who I am. That's my story. I'm sticking with it.
amen.
And my mission, my goal, my heart is just to try to be love and spread love. So,
Amen to that. That, my friend,
yeah.
is a good mission. That is a good mission. Well, we're going to give just another minute or so for people to jump on. And you're in New Jersey? That's where you're at?
Yeah, I'm in New Jersey.
New
Yep.
Jersey.
Yep.
How's the weather up there?
Today it's really nice. It's about 68
Ooh,
degrees. It's a nice
ah,
breeze,
man,
but it feels
you
really
just
good.
made me kind of jealous, man. I feel like it's already pushing the mid 80s right now. Uh, I don't know. You look on there, baby. Tell me what the temperature is. It feels hot. That's why I'm
Yeah,
like, I'm glad I found the shade.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It was pretty hot the last few days, but last night got a little cooler, and I guess we still got a little of that cool wind in, so we'll take it for now.
yes.
79, but the real feel's 90.
Yeah, it
It's
says
10.
it's
Oh,
70
see
right
there?
now, but it says the real feel is 90.
Oh, okay.
We'll see how it all pans out. Anyways,
Yeah.
so wanted to jump on here today, Grace Lifestyle, and talk about Gracism. This is a word to me that is something that we'll be able to push through to hopefully gather some people to understand that racism won't fix itself, right? But Gracism will. And when I say Gracism will, the gist of today's talk is just about gracing ourselves and gracing each other. And in gracing each other, we can learn to listen, and we can learn to talk, and we can learn to not be defensive. And then in that culture of not being defensive and listening to each other, then we can dialogue and come up with some real long lasting change. Because what I've seen, and I talked to Kyle about it just a little bit yesterday, is we'll have some stuff like this happen in America, and the white people will do something, and the African American people will do something, and then 30 days, 60 days later, it kind of all goes back to the way it was, for lack of better words. I'm not saying all of it goes back to the way it was, but the general consensus feels, to me at least, and I've already been wrong. So the general consensus to me feels like we kind of go up and down, and then it goes back. And this round, I would really like to have it not go back. Like Kyle said yesterday when I was talking to him on the phone, that he feels like that there's an awakening consciousness inside humans that are there for each other. And because that's awakening, and I feel like because grace is being pushed into America and around the world for the last 10 to 15 years, that people are really starting to realize judgment doesn't work, the law doesn't work, even typical Christianity that we call it doesn't work, but love and grace does. And Jesus said, I came in love and grace. And so that's how we come, is in love and grace as well. And so this talk is hopefully the beginning of many talks that we'll just be able to hash through a few things. And we want this to be open to anybody that has questions, for myself or for Kyle. And we just want open dialogue. Hopefully nobody will be rude, but if they are, I'm asking for my followers to not respond. Don't tie in. Just stay on the track, stay on the love train. Stay on the love train. Anyways, Kyle, go ahead and tell me what you see here, and kind of what we were talking about. Tell me what you see and what you feel that we can do as Americans to make this last.
Well, thank you, Phil, and thanks for wanting to do this together. I think, number one, that the dialogue is very important. We need to have the dialogue, because dialogue, in most cases, when done properly, helps bring understanding. You know, I don't know a lot about other things that I have not experienced. I can read about some things, I can glance at a few things here and there,
Yeah.
but I don't really know about it because I haven't experienced it. But when I get a chance to dialogue with other people that have experienced other things, then they can give me an insight to something that I'm not very familiar with. And at that point, Phil, it's my responsibility. I have a choice to make at that point. What do I want to do with this information? If it's something that's considered painful by the person telling me their experience, do I want to be empathetic? Even if that empathy means I have to acknowledge some things about myself.
Right.
I have a decision to make. Now, I hope that the humanity in all of humanity will always decide at the moment that they are hearing a painful experience of someone else, a regrettable experience of someone else. I hope that at that moment is when we decide to put everything aside, yeah, and for nothing less, just be empathetic to what the person is saying. Because when we allow empathy to guide us, and empathy and compassion are huge elements of love.
Come on.
When we allow empathy and compassion to take center stage at the moment, then we can put ourselves in the position of that person who's telling us what they've experienced. Nice. And I think that's something that we hope really starts to happen, and we see it happening, that people are saying, what if that was me? What if that was us? What if it was my son, my daughter, my mother, my father, my nephew, cousin, brother, best friend, neighbor, co-worker? What if it was?
Yeah.
How would I feel? And I think that's the biggest part of what we would like for everyone to understand. What if it were you? Because I know for me, where I am, when I hear things that are bad, I try to put myself in that position. If it's a tragic moment, I try to put myself there and feel what they feel.
Good.
Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm not the most, and I haven't always been the most compassionate person alive.
Uh, I
You know, I was a young Pharisee for most of my Christian life.
get
And,
it.
you know, my mom would always say, son, I'm praying for you that God gives you more compassion because you're just terrible. You know, I felt strongly that people should pull themselves up by their bootstraps. What's your problem? You know, you don't have an education, that's your fault. You don't have a better job, that's your fault. I mean, I was so uncompassionate to other people's experiences because I was looking at myself.
Yeah.
I grew up in the hood. I grew up in the inner city. I went to school. I got good grades. I found good jobs. I was looking at myself saying, if I did it, you should be able to do it too. So to the panhandler, to the person strung out, to the person that's living by the liquor store and, you know, drinking their life away, to that person, I would look upon them with no compassion whatsoever. And my mom used to always say, I hope God gives you more compassion because you're really bad at
It's
this.
awesome.
And it wasn't until I really started to understand love and the value of love and how every individual is seen by God, by source, by
Come
love.
on.
It was at that point that I started being able to see people differently and give compassion to the same people I was so easily uncompassionate
It's
towards.
awesome.
So empathy and compassion is what we need. Sorry for the long
No,
ramble, but
that was awesome. I actually am into the long ramble because it explains itself. Lots of times, at least for me, if I try to be quick and short, especially if I'm making a post
yeah,
and I don't put enough in there, it gets taken wrong. So I appreciate the full explanation. And basically, what you just said is you experienced grace, you know,
yeah,
because churchianity in a nutshell will cause you to always feel that you are righteous and everybody else is
right,
lower, and you're
right.
out of goodness trying to bring them up, but the
Hmm.
approach is actually pushing them
Right,
down. And grace turns
exactly.
the flips the script. Grace has you come
Yeah.
under people to help
Hmm.
lift them up. And
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
beauty, I think, of grace. And then I seal that with Jesus said, I came to serve and not be served. So I feel like we
yeah.
can serve our brothers and sisters in humanity
By
by
listening.
listening and lifting up and doing just what you said, putting ourselves in that place. And I'm the same way. I haven't done that as much, but this past couple of weeks, talking to tons of people on both sides of the fence, um, you know, both colors that are in question at the moment, for lack of better words, and hearing from both sides. So, one thing that was huge to me that I have learned, because I was always the guy, not because I wanted to be, but I felt like doing it right, was just what you said, where if one kid can get on Instagram and make $20,000 a month, then anybody can. And that might be true, doesn't change the fact of what's going on right now.
Right,
Doesn't change
right.
the fact. And for me, the white privilege thing, I've always shoved to the side and said that's not true. It's really American privilege, and I believe there is American privilege as well in a broader spectrum.
Hmm.
But what I've
Yeah,
seen is white privilege is for sure real when I put myself, like I was just talking to my kids about it at the dinner table. Um, when we go for a walk around our neighborhood and we hear a police car, we never feel like we need to run and hide. And when
yeah,
you're walking in a different kind of neighborhood, and I was listening to somebody who was saying when they're out and their kids hear a siren, they're taught, no matter what they're doing, lay on the floor if you hear a siren in the neighborhood. And I'm like, man, like that's white privilege. And I want to say for my for my white people that are going to say no it's not, I was the one that said no it's not too. And really, if you think about it, those kids were born into where they are, and my kids were born into where they are. So it really is. And we can say, well, it's a low income area, we can say it's this certain subdivision, all that's true, but the kids were born into it. And that makes the white person, or born into the, for lack of better words, please don't judge every word I'm saying, I'm working here, I'm trying to make it work, a middle class neighborhood, if you're born in there, the story with the police officers is different. And a lower income area, which I've lived in, and I, when I lived in a low income area for 5 years of my life, my wife and I didn't really want to go for walks. We didn't want to take the dog out. And when we heard a cop car sirens, we just automatically thought this is probably not that great. So I understand that that's really it. But the white privilege for me has really shown itself to be real. And the way I heard it stated in a book that my mom gave me, you remember the name of that book, baby? Grab it for me real quick, please. We've been reading through it. It's a white pastor who was really good friends with MLK and did a lot of things together. And he shares a lot of his stories. And he makes it so simple, and I was able to see it. He said, we're all in a race called life, right? We're all one race, many colors. And in this race, there is certain groups of people that just get to start 10 yards ahead. So we all start the race at the same time, but some people start 10 yards ahead, and you have to be an exceptional runner to make up that 10-yard difference, because some of my white friends, including myself, have been like, it's not as racial as we think. We had a black president that we put in 2 years or 2 terms. We have all the amazing athletes and all this stuff. But those are the exceptions, I feel, Kyle. Hit me if I'm wrong. Okay.
Well, yeah, they're the outliers for sure. They're the outliers for sure. Now, I do believe that every single human being is capable of great and amazing things.
Yes.
There's no question about that. I've always believed that. I've always believed that I can make it here. I can make it anywhere. I can be great. I can be the corporate CEO guy. I can be the business owner that is very successful. I've never looked at my color and felt like I couldn't be something. Never. I've always believed I could be. Now, that's no question about it. But that's what I believe. Right. And that's my firm belief in myself. I've always believed if I work hard, if I be dedicated, if I just do the right things for the most part, I can do that. However, there's still another side of this that is real. There's times where we all need help. We all need assistance. We all need advice or whatever it is. We all need something to get to where we're going. Right? No one just comes out and all of a sudden they're there. And right. So since we need that help and assistance, it might be in some environments, and I'm not making an excuse, but it might be in some environments and some situations where that help that I need may not be as easily and readily available for me as it is for perhaps you, Phil.
Right.
Now, that's a hard reality, and it's a sad reality. And I'm not one that tries to live in a white privilege mindset or a Black Lives Matter mindset or anything like that. I'm hoping that the day comes, and I really believe that day is coming, where these phrases and realities won't be part of our vocabulary, our experience, or anything. I really hope this stuff goes away, and I believe it will.
And
I'll say this.
Called a racist for saying that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And so, I do know that when we talk historically, that every nation, perhaps, every civilization, every group of people, probably at one point or another has been enslaved by someone else. You had world dominating powers, the Greeks, the Romans, the these, that's, and they've enslaved people. They didn't care who it was. They went into neighboring towns and villages and countries and took people captive and enslaved them. So I'm sure every culture, every nationality, every country at some point has experienced some type of slavery in their history. And I think that because we're the last group that was enslaved.
Okay.
I think that is still, we haven't moved far enough away from it yet to be fully healed of it. Whereas, let's say, if the Britons back in the 1400s enslaved the Germans. Well, there's been enough time for those two groups to heal from that past and move on and get along with one another in a very good way. We're still healing from that. We're still growing from that. We're still evolving from that. So I believe in time, enough time will transpire that none of this will be part of our stories anymore. I really do believe that. And we've seen great progress. We really have. But I don't know if we can always look at an outlier or an exception to the rule and just assume that just because we have these exceptions, that it's the same way for everyone. I want to tell a quick story and then I'll give it back to you, Phil. I'm a decent person. I'm not a gangbanger. I've never sold drugs. I grew up in church and I always had a respectability for myself and for people. I have an image that I like to try to keep about myself. I'm not threatening. Hi, good morning. I'm not threatening, I believe. But one day I was about 20 years old. I live here and it's a very urban town, a very, ethnic, it's a parts of this town here that's pretty rough. People might call it the hood in some ways. But we had a Blockbuster. We didn't have one in our town. We had a Blockbuster in the neighboring town. And this town is predominantly white. And we go to this town all the time. It was, our Kmart was there, our supermarket was there, so it was really close, and we drive over to the next town and do shopping or whatever. One Friday night, I decided to go to Blockbuster. I had gone there many times before, no problem. I went in, got my videos, came out, got my car, pulled out of the parking lot. And as soon as I pulled out of the parking lot, a cruiser pulled behind me. This cruiser followed me as I'm heading back to my town for about a mile. I'm nervous, of course, because there's a cop behind me. I'm making sure I'm not doing anything wrong. And I notice another cruiser pulls behind that one, and then eventually a third cruiser pulls behind that one. And I'm thinking, oh, whoa, like what's going on? Anyway, long story short, I got about maybe 500 feet from where that town ended and my town began. And he hit his lights. And so I pull over. Without warning, without provocation, without anything on my behalf, these cops, guns drawn, came to my car, yelling and screaming, get out of the car, get out of the car, get out of the car. I'm 20 years old. I'm terrified. I'm shaking. I'm scared. I'm starting to cry because I don't understand what's happening. I don't understand why I see all these guns pointing at me. I don't know what the deal is. They make me get on the ground. And they leave me there. They go in my car. They're looking all through the car and whatever. Now, again, I'm very close to my town, so cars are coming into the city and leaving the city. So there's this big old display right here, right next to my town. There's a big old display car because it's a very busy street that these two towns are connected. Gotcha. And so eventually, one of the cop yells, "Get off the ground! Get off the ground! Get up!" And he says to me, "You can go." And tears in my eyes, terrified. I said, "What happened?" And he says, "Oh, well, we got a report that someone stole a bunch of TVs fitting your description in your car." I had a 1990 Ford Mustang hatchback. It's a small car. The windows were not tinted. You can clearly see inside the car that there were no TVs in my car. I got home, I told my mother. She was enraged. She was furious. She was so mad. I said, Mom, just let it go, let it go, let it go. I didn't understand this dynamic. I hadn't experienced it. I didn't know anything about it. She said, let it go, son, let it go, let it go, let it go. And I did. But over the years, I've pondered this because I had seen this stuff happen many times. I'm driving somewhere and I see cops pulling people over and, people out in the street and all kind of stuff. And I really believe this with all my heart, Phil, that was a game they played. They would target young black drivers, probably men, and just to have fun with them, just to pick with them. I really believe that with all my heart. There was no cause for that.
Right.
There was no provocation. I didn't have a warrant for my arrest. I didn't lead them on a high speed chase. Nothing like that happened. But yet I experienced that. And that said something in my mind
Yeah.
that when you get pulled over, you don't know what's going to happen. Now, I will say this. I have been pulled over before and had pleasant experiences. So I don't want to paint a picture like it's always been
Yeah.
horrible. I've had pleasant experiences by being pulled over. But that one was
Mark.
unexplainable. That one left a stain.
Yeah.
That one I understand. That one I may have to talk to my children about one day. And I don't want to have that conversation, Phil. I don't want to have that conversation, but I might have to if things are not better.
Yeah.
So, you know, I hope that with this attention, hey, how you doing? That good, thank you. That all of this stuff really begins to bring attention to something that we have been experiencing as a people for too long.
Yeah.
I'll say this one last thing, and I really, as the pastor in me will stop. The preacher.
Go for it, bro.
There's a meme going around social media, and it's a lady holding a picture saying, "Dear cops, stop killing our black men." This picture was taken 50 years ago.
Wow.
50 years ago. And we're still holding signs today.
Yeah.
Dear cops, please stop killing our black men and women. We're still holding those signs today. And that shouldn't be.
Yeah. 50 years is long enough for some change.
Yeah.
I hear you. I get it. And that story, see, I've never had that experience. I've been pulled over many times for good reason, right? I've been pulled over many times and went to jail all because of my actions and my issues. But I've never been pulled over just to be toyed with. White privilege or not, I don't know. I'm just saying I've never had that experience. You have. And as a 20-year-old man, that leaves a mark on you for every time you see a cop. You wonder about those things. And then we have the stuff that gets highlighted in the news. And as you said, it wasn't every experience, but it was that experience. So that is definitely something real that happens. This is that book that my mom got me. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's amazing. Some really amazing stuff in there. Get him, Ty. Get him. My 6-pound dog. Yeah, White Preacher's Message on Race and Reconciliation. And it's been super eye-opening for me. One other thing I want to touch on is, I saw somebody had made some comments on there about African Americans not being from here and stuff. And this is such a touchy subject as well, which I got all kinds of wrath on where I used the wrong word out of my ignorance and not knowing. Is there some things that goes on, like how are we politically correct to have this kind of dialogue? What would, because I've heard some people, I can't remember the actor's name, he said that racism is kept around because we're always calling white people and black people, and if we would just start calling them people. And I've had that notion as well. Like, I mean, I just see you as a person to me, but at the same time, you value who you are and you value your culture and your race as well. And yes, we're the human race, but there's many colors in there. And even see sometimes within the African American culture, I see this thing that's called colorism, where light skinned and dark skinned people are, back and forth and dividing up. So as a ignorant white person, not knowing what to do, I had a roommate for 2 years named Eric, and he was a black guy, and I always called him Eric. I never said, hey, here's my black friend Eric. It was always, here's my friend Eric, or here's my roommate Eric, or hey, la la la, here's my friend Eric. Like, so that's my take on it. What's your take? Like, what's right where I'm not offending other people, not knowing I'm offending other people?
Yeah. I get that. And there is an aspect to that, I believe as well. We should just, you know, be able to just say people, right? And I do see that. However, I don't know how we can do that at times when we need to be descriptive about something. Like I don't like saying my white friend, or my experience I had with white people. For instance, I went to a white church in my teenage years. It was the best experience I ever had in church in my entire life. Even when I was pastoring, I couldn't duplicate that experience.
I know.
It was absolutely the best. Now, I don't necessarily like saying I went to a white church, right? I just want to say I went to this church and it was absolutely awesome and it was the greatest thing ever. But I use the word white church just as a descriptive word, a descriptive way to say, hey, guess what? I went to this place that was totally different than me and everything I understood, and it was wonderful. When I use that, I use it to say that,
Gotcha.
to say, hey, whatever you're thinking about a different people and a group of people, my experience with this was wonderful.
Right.
So I use it for descriptive purposes.
Gotcha.
And then two, I think there is something to the lines of really being proud of who you are. It hit me because I at one point when all this stuff started kicking off, my first thought was, yeah, you know what, we shouldn't be using color. Let's get rid of the whole color thing. And I get that. But then I realized something else. Well, why are we different colors then if it wasn't going to be important? If our colors weren't going to have value,
Yeah.
if our cultures weren't going to have value, if it wasn't a reason for it, then why are we? Creator did this. You didn't do it. I didn't do it. Creator did this
Right.
for a purpose. And why should we run away from who we are because we feel like, well, I may not be saying it right? Well, I think it's not about saying it right. It's about doing it right. For example, we have a stereotypical ideology we need to get rid of, right?
Right.
So in the black culture, perhaps there was a ideology running around, a stereotypical ideology that said white people are the devil, right? So the stereotypical mindset gets inside of you. You see white people, you can think, oh, that's a devil, that's a devil. So when you feel a white person has done something wrong against you, you go back to this stereotypical thing. That's why, because they're the devil. Well, Black people have a stereotype. Hispanic people have a stereotype. I mean, there's all these stereotypes. So what if we got rid of the stereotypes? What if we got rid of that? These stereotypical phrases, ideologies, ideals that we have about people, if we get rid of them, then I won't treat you like you're a white devil. You won't treat me like I'm a thug. You won't treat me based upon the stereotypical ideology you have in your mind about this group of people.
Mindset.
Because I don't think there's anything wrong, right? The mindset. I don't think there's anything wrong with acknowledging I'm Black, you're white. It's beautiful, right? We're diverse. Diversity is beautiful. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But the stereotypical mindsets we have about one another, that's what needs to go.
I agree. And the mindset, we do a whole nother section on that, huh, buddy? The mindsets.
Yeah.
Right? The
Yeah.
thoughts that we have about that. Because for me, and this is just me talking and really addressing this just recently.
Thinking of solutions.
Well, thinking of solutions is one thing to move forward in the solution, but what I've taught my kids on the way up is that I'm not necessarily proud to be white. And some people, especially here in Alabama, they proud to be white. And for me, when I look back over the white people, we come to America and we snuff out the Indians because they have bow and arrows and we have guns. And then we have slaves and we buy them from Africa, and the white people say, well, the Black people in Africa sold the Black people to the white people. And I'm like, that's not really the point though. Yes, it's a point, but the point for us Americans is, and for me, what I'm saying is I'm not necessarily proud of any of that. And then as you grow up and you start hearing, the white side and the white privilege and the white stuff and the white this, and I find out that I've grown up in Seminole, Florida, where it's mostly white. I went to Seminole High School where it's mostly white, and I was just okay. It was just how it was. It wasn't
Didn't know anything different.
it wasn't a problem for me. A color wasn't a problem. And then I moved to Alabama in '99, and it's mostly black, I feel like, everywhere we go. And then I have, I own a car lot. And in the car lot that we have here, we did a lot of tax cars. We did a lot of 10,000 and under cars. And I dealt with a ton of African American people who all fit that mold that you're talking about. They came in feeling entitled, that I owed them something because I'm a white business owner. And for the next 2 years that they have an $8,000 car that they bought with 200,000 miles on it, I owe them. I owe them tires. I owe them brakes. I owe them. And it's lived this for 8 years owning a car lot, and it mentally drained me, and it mentally put me in a place of, when I see the people, I now find myself being stereotypical, that they're entitled. And now I'm having to deal with my mindset of, they're not all entitled. And maybe those people were, but they're still amazing people who probably have the wrong mindset, and nobody really coached them to let them know what you said, where you grew up in a place, but you said nobody can stop me. And like, it was a mindset you had. That mindset of, I'm unstoppable, regardless of my upbringing, regardless of my surrounding. I'm going to climb, and I'm going to be a winner. And then you have some people that I feel grow up in a certain place, and they feel like this is just how it is. And those people become entitled. So can you speak into entitlement a little bit, and what you think that might mean, and what can I do as a white person to change my views on entitlement? And that goes into, you hear the white person's story of government funding and the projects, and they just stay there, and everything's the they. I feel like that might even be offensive, and I don't know what to say, but I'm talking about low income projects. I'm not talking about a black only community. I'm talking about a low income mindset, because I had people come in that were white, that were entitled, that I owed them. I owed them the car to run like a new one for 2 years. Speak into that for me, if you don't mind, because I don't want to be offensive, and I need help with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there are, you said this last week. I was watching your broadcast last week, and you were talking about what needs to happen in the home. Now, I think that when you talk about entitlement, it all starts in the home, right? So I didn't grow up with an entitled mentality, because my mom never made us feel entitled to anything. She made us feel like hard work, dedication, motivation was what you needed, and you gotta be good at what you do, And I took from that a mindset of, hey, doesn't matter what color I am, doesn't matter if I'm man, woman, whatever. If I have something people want, a service, a good, or whatever, they'll buy it from me. They'll want it. They'll want me, I do home improvement, so they'll want me to fix their home and whatever. If I give good service, if I present something good in front of them, they will want me. They will call me. They won't care about anything. Hey, Kyle, you do good work. You're respectful. We want your service. And I do believe that. So I think that entitlement mentality starts at home, just like the poverty mentality starts at home. I grew up on some very poor streets and some very poor neighborhoods here in this town. And as a young boy, Phil, I used to think, okay, my mom said this street was always bad. Why is it still bad, though?
Gotcha.
Right? Some of these streets are still bad today. Why are they still bad today? I mean, 20 years ago, they were bad. Today, they're still bad. Some of these neighborhoods were bad 20, 30, 40 years ago. They're still bad today. Because I think people, when they don't feel like they have hope, and hope is a powerful thing to feel you need to feel. When people don't feel as if they have hope, they'll start to become a product of their environment instead of trying to change their environment. Right. And so if one feels entitled, they'll just go through life feeling as if someone owes them something. I think part of the problem, and something that really infuriates people when you say white privilege, and it's not something I use, but there is an aspect of it that I do think is real. But I think what some people hear is, you owe me something. And they say, I don't owe you anything because I didn't do anything to you. I've been good to everybody that I know. I haven't enslaved you. I haven't beaten you. I haven't tried to kill you. I don't owe you anything. And I get that. You don't owe us anything. You don't. So,
good talk, man.
But there is systemic racism that is real. It affects us economically, educationally, in our societies. It is real. Systemic racism is real. And what's happening now, because of these last few events, this systemic racism is being uncovered and unveiled. Yeah. And people are saying, wait a minute, this hasn't been equal. This hasn't been fair across the board. And equality now is starting to become the rallying cry for everyone. We just want equality. I don't want anything from you, Phil. I don't want to walk into your house, take anything you have. I don't want you to give me any handouts. I don't want you to treat me special. I don't want anyone to do that. I want equality. I want, Phil, if I show up to your house to do a job, I want you to look at me with the same equality, if my track record has proven so, as the white person that shows up and says, I want to do your roof. I want you to look at me as the same. I don't want you to see me as some stereotype mindset. Oh, that's a black man. He probably lazy. He probably going to try to steal something from me. No. All I want is equality. Give me a chance to come and be equal with the person that's competing on this job, with the person that's competing for this scholarship, with the person that's competing for whatever. Give me the equality. Give us the equality. Let us show you that we're no different. Yeah. That's all we're saying. So we don't feel like you owe us anything, white America. We don't. We don't want anything from you in that aspect. I don't. I know. I speak for myself, and hopefully I speak for everyone. Yeah. But we don't want anything. We don't want handouts. We just want equality. That's all.
I love it. And so for me, I see over the past years, like, in the white church or even white Christianity, when stuff like this happens, I see the churches rallying up and they want to put care package together and food, and they want to go into the poverty and hand out boxes of food. And as much as I like that, that's not changing crap. That's literally not changing anything that's going on, right? I don't think that it is. I think that having this conversation and hearing that you just want to start at the same spot. Yeah. You just want the same spot to start from, and we all run together, and may the better man win, regardless of the color, and they get the job. Right. They get or woman. Bam. Preach. Or
yeah.
Or
yes.
As I was reading some stuff, I find out that the white male makes more money at the same position than the white female, and the white and black make white male and white woman both make more than the black male or female at the same position. And that's what you're talking about. Right. The stuff that comes down the system that nobody wants to talk about, very real, and keep pushing other people into the corner, which it's not fair. We can say what we want, and we can talk about the world's not fair. And I've told my kids, when one of their friends gets something and they don't, well, the world's not fair. I just say that. But at the end of the day, we're looking for equality, and we're looking for things to be fair. And putting money in a poor area doesn't change what's in corporate America. It doesn't change
Right.
happening in the police structure and in the government
Right.
structure, and why
Right.
are almost all the judges white. We can go on, right?
Yeah.
And then we can go in and we can see that the black male gets longer and harsher terms on the same
Mm-hmm.
crime in front of the round of
Yeah.
white judges. We
Yeah.
say it's not real, but it's real. So I
Yeah.
feel these are the things that you guys are crying about to bring equality to. And do
Mm-hmm.
you see, like, what's something that I can do personally to help that kind of stuff? What's something that we can do as a body to help those things? Like, what's part of the solution here? Now, I understand the mindset. We all need to
Mm-hmm.
have the mindset of equality. We all need to have the
Right.
mindset of gracism and not racism, which is the mindset of regardless of where we've been, we grace and love each other as people. So let's, as a
Right.
people, work on this together. Like, that's the
Right.
heartbeat of what's being said here. But what do you
Yeah.
see something that we could do to help the bigger structure to make things more equal?
I think the dialogue that we're having and that's been um, that we've been having over the past few weeks and now maybe close to a month about this is the place we start.
Yes.
But then of course we gotta do a little bit more than talking, right? We gotta start putting this to action.
Yes. Which I don't
And
bags of food.
yeah,
Much as that's
exactly.
good now. I'm not knocking that. And I don't mean to interrupt,
Yeah,
but I don't think the church needs another outreach.
right, right,
I feel
right,
like it's something
right.
bigger than that.
Yeah, I have a dear friend. He's white, and again, that's just for descriptive purposes, just to show you what you're talking about, or just to add to what you're talking about. And he says, you know what? It's time for the old white guy to move aside in the church. It's time that we let some of these people of color and different nationalities and some of these women really start to take some leadership roles in the church. We old white middle-aged men have been running this thing for a long time, and look, we've gotten nowhere. It's time that we mix this stuff up, right?
I'm with it.
So I heard that. I'm like, yes, thank you for saying that. So I think that's where the action is needed. Not that again we want to take anything from anyone. We don't want to come in and take your position. We don't want to come in and take your stat. We don't want to
Sure.
take anything. But when opportunities arise for in these openings, in these organizations, in the judicial system, in the police departments, in the worship centers, in every aspect of life, when these opportunities arise, let's look into communities for different people so that we can bring diversity. And once we bring diversity in, and we have been doing this in some ways, but once we bring diversity in, then let's listen to this diversity.
Right.
This power structure that's been in place forever is it's not what we need. You know, we need this whole power structure to be brought down and rebuilt with diverse people who understand the need for diversity and understand the different cultures that are in this country and around the
Yeah.
world. The power structure that is just does not work. It has never worked. It's only worked for the top echelon, that higher tier. It's only served their purpose. It's never served all of us or our purpose, humanity's purpose. So that's where it has to start, or that's where the change must be at. Is it has to start there, and that has to be torn down, and has to be rebuilt with diversity and people that understand one another and want to work with one another and build together.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's just how it has to happen. And I think the events that have taken place are starting people to wake up and realize it. You know, Phil, for you to say some of the things you said, it touches my heart, man. You know, and not because I want to be right on how I feel about certain things, but if there's no acknowledgement, there can be no change, right? Now I could speak to what I believe is the ailment in Black America. in some of these ghettos or hoods, I can speak to what that issue is. I have no problem. I do that all the time. Hey guys, what the hell are you doing out there?
Yeah.
Come on here. We got to do better. If we want America, the world to see us differently, we've got to do better. Do you understand what I'm saying? We have got to do better. We've got to change the image that they see. We can only do that, right?
Good.
So I thank you for that. I thank you for voicing it, because you're saying what I've been saying to my community. Now you're saying it to your community. Hey guys, we need to wake up and do better here. You know, if we want things to change, we need to take a look in the mirror, see what the problem is, be willing to change the problem, and so on and so forth. I say this to my nephews. I say this to young men. I say this to people that seem hopeless. Guys, this is on us. You know, my generation, the generations coming up behind us, this is on us, guys. And I'm gonna say this again, because I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to make it seem like I'm attacking anyone, but what I've seen historically, right? So for instance, Italian Americans, right? They came here, they were treated very poorly in the beginning. They were, you know, almost treated as Black people were treated. But something happened within them, right? They were the mobs. They were the mob. The word thug was given to the Italian American community. Those were thugs. They were killing one another.
True.
They were in the press. They were Italian Americans. People feared them. They had this horrible, wretched reputation. You know, they were the guineas, the wops, and all those despicable names.
Yes.
But you know what happened, Phil? When Italian Americans started rising up and getting into entertainment, the Frank Sinatras and different people like that, you know what they didn't do? They didn't write songs that said, "I'm hanging with my guinea wop boy." You know? They didn't do things to degrade their own people. You know, now I get a lot of heat when I talk this way, but I think there's a big part of what we have to do in Black America per se is we have to value one another and treat one another with dignity and respect. And that has to grow within us. And I think as that continues to grow within us, it spreads out and people begin to view us differently.
Yeah.
And I know that's a hard conversation for some people to accept, because they're like, well, that's our culture. That's how it is. Well, I'm not telling you don't be culturally true to who you want to be. I'm just telling you don't be derogatory,
Right,
to who you are and to the people who look like you. That's all I'm saying. Don't be derogatory. Don't add to the stereotypical mindsets that's out there, is what I'm saying. We can do better as a group of people, right? And I'm not saying all of us aren't trying to do better, but again, if we give people a segment to look upon, like for instance, a white supremacist does not speak for white America, but I'm sure white people would want white supremacists to go away. You know, you don't speak for me, but I just wish you go away. I just go do better, go learn better, go get educated, do something. Just go away, because we don't like this stain upon us, you know. And the same thing in the Black community. I'm not saying all Black people are thugs and crazy and, you know, killers or anything like that, but this small portion of us that is looking really bad, we want you to get better. That's all we're saying.
yes. And I'm in 100% agreement with that. And, you know, I feel like as we become, for lack of better words, I feel like when we become better humans, then we all can rise together. And I really feel that grace in my life has made me a better human, because I used to be a Christian, judgmental person. As you know, and as yourself, we've journeyed kind of the same path through the church. Yeah. I didn't grow up in the church. So when I came out of it, my lifestyle, I went into the church and I just assumed this was how it was. The Christians were better than the next person. And if you weren't an insider, then you were automatically an outsider. And the outsiders didn't know what we know. And so we were privy. And if you didn't want to hear what I was privy to, well, then you can just stay on the outside. Right. And that's ugly. We're
Yeah.
supposed to be loving and caring, and here we are pushing away people because they didn't do it right, they didn't say it right, they didn't come to church, they didn't repent right, they didn't say the prayer right, they didn't do the altar right. All the stuff they didn't do right makes them
Yeah.
less human. And I feel like we're doing that to each other right now. The white supremacists are
Yeah.
doing things terribly not right, but they're not
Right.
less human. The people you're
Right.
discussing aren't less human. So when the people that are out there trying to do right can, I don't even know if we can change them, because that's not my heart, is to change anybody, but at least make them think that if we just
Mm-hmm.
look in the mirror, like Michael's song, if we look in the
Yeah.
mirror and do what we can, because I can change myself. Right?
Yeah.
I can't change anybody else. I can't change my wife. I can't even change my
Right.
kids, even though we think we control our kids. All we can do is plant seeds, and they're
Yeah.
going to grow up, and then they're going to do what they want to do. And when we realize that's how life works as a human, then I
Mm-hmm.
feel like we can be better humans by working on ourselves and rise
Yes.
together. And me
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging that, man, I have work to do, because for the last several years, I have pushed against white privilege. And every time I heard somebody say Black Lives Matter, I would always say, yeah, but all lives matter. And so until this past go round, did I even realize what I was saying out of my ignorance? Like, yeah, we all rise together, but the best saying I've heard, which just made it click for me, is if my wife tells me, "Tell me that you love me," and I say, "I love all women. Of course I love you." It's it's gonna cause a problem, right?
Oh
There's
yeah.
gonna
Oh yeah.
What do you mean you love all women?
Yeah. Yeah.
What? So, and it just clicked for me. Yeah, because Black lives are the ones being killed right now. Black lives are the ones that are being pushed down right now. Black lives are the ones that are, having this schism, for lack of better words, going on, and not me. So for me and my righteous self to say all lives matter, what I'm saying is true, but I'm not addressing what's going on right now. And for that, I apologize to everybody viewing and all the people I might have heard in the past, but I've awakened to it. And so for my white America, it's all lives do matter, but right now we're discussing the issues in America that have to do with our Black American friends. And so
Yeah.
that's been huge for me. What's your take on that? The Black Lives Matter, because I've heard a bunch of white people say, well, that's owned by Soros and it's not really good and it's still political, and where are you at on all that? Talk to me.
Okay. Um, Full disclosure, when the phrase first came out, the movement first started, I was like, what do you mean Black Lives Matter? We're shooting one another down in the hood every freaking day. What the heck are you talking about? Put your freaking signs down and stop shooting one another. That was my first initial full
Yeah,
disclosure position on that. And I don't mind saying that. But I just recently did a video because what has happened over the past few occurrences made me see it vastly different. And what I hear now, not then, but now, what I hear the phrase Black Lives Matter, what I hear is we matter too, as far as speaking to police particularly, and not all police, of course, but to the segment of the police that brutalizes, terrorizes, kills, and does destructive things to us when you're interacting with
yeah,
us. What we're saying to you, Mr. and Miss Officer, is we matter just like your sons and your daughters and your fathers and your mothers and your
love
grandfathers
that.
and your nieces and nephews and your cousins and the people you hold dear to you. We matter too in that same way. Because again, it's all we're asking for is equality. We're not saying don't arrest us if we do something wrong. We're not saying if we come out of a a bank after robbing it with our guns blazing. We enter into a shootout with you and you end up shooting us. We're not saying don't shoot us if we're shooting at you. We're not saying that. But what we are saying is, if we're riding down the street, we're unarmed,
Coming.
and we're no threat to you whatsoever.
Yeah.
Whatever stereotype you had in your mind when you pulled us over, ditch that, see us as a human being, treat us as a human being, and then we go about our separate ways. You know, someone had said something, and I commented on a post, and they said, well, you know, the fact of the matter is white cops kill, you know, or cops kill white people more than any other group of people. And when they threw up this chart of statistics, and at first glance, I thought, oh, maybe I need to shut up. You know, statistics are right here. I mean, maybe I need to mind my business and go back home or something. But then I thought about it. I was talking to a friend of mine. They said, you know what? We have a town here, and it's pretty much all white, and not many black people here. And then that statistic came to my mind. And I thought, okay, so in your town where it's predominantly white, if this year, 2020, 10 individual white people in your town decided to rob a bank at separate times, and they all end up getting killed by the police in a gun battle when they came out of the bank. And so if 10 white people decided to rob a bank with guns and got into a shootout with police, and they all end up dying as a result of this, 10 white people. And then one day a black man is driving down the street, he's unarmed, he's unthreatening, he's not doing anything that deserves death, but he ends up dead. Well, at the end of the year, the statistics are going to say, in this town or city, you know, 10 white people were killed compared to only one black person was killed. And we're going to say, see, what's the problem?
Yep.
Well, the problem is the one black person that got killed didn't deserve to get killed, shouldn't have been killed. This person was not wielding a weapon. This person wasn't trying to run you down with his car. This person wasn't trying to kill you. So the statistics don't always match the real reality of the scenarios that we're facing. Exactly. Statistics can be viewed in any kind of different, in many different ways. So I don't want statistics, right? I don't want no statistics. I want reality, and reality is we matter too. Our lives matter. We're good people. We're loving people. We have families that love us just like you have families that love you. We have value. Maybe our action at the time does not suggest such, but we do. So that's what I hear when I hear Black Lives Matter, that we matter.
Love that.
We're not people that should just be treated as if we have no value.
That was friggin' awesome.
Well said.
Oh, man. Well said, bro. That was totally enlightening to me as well. Even farther into that is it's about the fact that you guys are getting bothered and killed for no reason. So how many of that needs to happen before that's a problem? All the white people that are being arrested or being shot deserved that at the moment, for lack of better words. Man, brilliant, buddy. Miss, you just said the same. It was brilliant. Anyways, man, that was, I'm just sitting here rehearsing that. That was beautifully spoken, man. I really appreciate that. It's been about an hour. But do you mind jumping on with me next week and we can continue on? That's something.
Absolutely. I love that.
Let's do this again next week. And I feel like I saw a bunch of questions. I can barely see it because there's a glare on my screen. I want to go back and get some of the questions.
And tell people to comment.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, if there's, here's my thing is, I've been 3 years of Bible school and 20 years in the ministry, and I can't say the Bible clearly says anything, right? And as soon as I hear the Bible clearly says, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I'm out.
It's back and forth. But there's a few concepts in the Bible that I believe are pretty clear. And I believe one of them is that we're all connected. And we're all one in Christ. And that there's a union that took place at the cross when God was reconciling the entire cosmos. So moving into this, being one, all rising together, being humans, uh, the way you explained it was beautiful. You know, I want to move into having some dialogue with some questions that some people might have on. For one, I want to live in the solution. My man Thomas Hudson, that ended up getting me to Canyonland and out of the drug life, had a foundation called Living in the Solution. That terminology has never left me. I always want my life to be living in the solution. I feel like the solution to every problem is love. I feel like the solution to everything going on is love. And I feel like let's just throw it out there. Kyle, you and I do a good job trying to love the best we can. Imagine if everybody loved
Right.
as much as they could their neighbor
Yeah.
and their fellow American, regardless of
Yeah.
color. Imagine what we could do if just that in the neighborhoods. Like
Yeah.
living in the solution to me is living out our life out loud,
Right.
living out life
Right.
in the solution. And don't
Yeah.
think that handout is the solution.
Mindset.
So for me, I believe mindset and having a love mindset and the concept of union, what that, because some people will say, I'm so hurt and I'm so offended, I feel like I can't love the other color because of what they've done. And to me, I feel like forgiveness is involved in there, understanding what really happened on the cross, like how forgiven you are for all of your ish, which then bubbles up and allows us to forgive others for their ish. Because what I find out is most people, not all, but most people, Kyle, are Jesus's words on the cross to the people killing him. Forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. I feel like that is what happens in
Even
society.
if they think they do.
Even if they think they know what they're doing,
Right.
I feel like there's quite a bit of blindness. And I can say that with confidence because of all of my blind spots that I still have and are being uncovered. And I'm okay saying it because I want my life to live in the solution.
Elevate.
So
Me too.
questions coming underneath here, guys. Anybody that has some questions, and Kyle, maybe you and I'll just put together a couple things that we can dialogue with next time. Just keep kind of rolling a little bit and how we can live in the solution, how Gracism can be the solution to racism. Brother, I love you. I thank you.
Love you too.
Appreciate you coming with me, man. And all y'all watching, I know Kyle and I both love you. You're amazing. We believe in you. We believe that we can all live in the solution together. We believe that knowing how much we're loved and forgiven will bubble out of us into loving and forgiving others. And that's the solution. You guys are amazing.
Somebody
What?
wants to know if he's single.
Kyle, are you married?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay. There you go. We got some people that want to know. One person in particular is like, he is.
No, but I'm not married yet, but I'm in a very happy, very happy situation. So, you know.
That's awesome, man. I love you, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. You guys are amazing. Have a wonderful week. Go love some people.